Right, welcome everyone to the public law class. We are going to start this new chapter called Parliamentary Supremacy. This is also known as parliamentary sovereignty. I would like to describe it more like legislative supremacy of parliament. Okay, these are the three terms you can use meaning the same thing. To me, I feel that this is more accurate description of it, more accurate version of it, or we can call it legislative supremacy of parliament, because this tells us accurately what it is. Okay, now let's work on this. What do you feel? What does that mean? Last one. Says the parliament is supreme law. And what does that tell us as well? More thing. Think about more. Parliament is the supreme lawmaking body, right? What else it tells us? And
everyone is bound by the legislation.
Okay. Think along a different line. Say legislative supremacy of parliament. Its parliament is the supreme lawmaking body, right? Does that talk about enforcing the law? It doesn't. You see, that means the supremacy is limited to enforcement, or supremacy is limited to lawmaking. Be careful with this, because that's where the theory, and when we are talking about the enforcement, we are talking about practical application, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Right. But when we are talking about just lawmaking, we are not always talking about practical application. It may remain limited just in theory. Okay, do you understand what I'm trying to say? You see, legislative supremacy of parliament tells us, as we all know, that parliament is the supreme lawmaking body. It can make and unmake any law it wishes. Look at this, look at the statement. It can make and unmake any law it wishes. Does that necessarily mean that law can be applied? Any law it wishes, any law we make, does that necessarily mean that that law can be applied?
Yes. Laws can be made. That is under the judicial law. They are not applying it. The application of the law is depending on someone else's power.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. So you see, unlimited authority is limited to what? Just to lawmaking, not into enforcement of it. Okay. So when I'm saying unlimited lawmaking authority, it means you can go beyond the territories. You can go beyond the territories. Okay. But when I'm saying, when I'm talking about application of the law, can we go beyond the territories? Yes or no? Say, when I'm talking about unlimited jurisdiction, unlimited lawmaking authority, think about it. Can UK Parliament make a law about Dhaka city? In theory?
Yes.
In practice, is it applicable?
No.
Can that be enforced in Bangladesh? Answer is no. Okay. So there is a limitation here. You see, this is always remember this. This is more of a theoretical thing. It is limited to lawmaking. In theory, it is not, does not extend to the application. The unlimited authority does not extend to the application of the law. It is only limited to the making of the law. That must be remembered very clearly. If you can remember it, rest of it will, will be in its place. Are we all clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Now, again, what we do, what we did in our CLRI class of statutory interpretation. You see, statutory interpretation and parliamentary supremacy are very closely linked with each other. Who makes the law? Parliament makes the law. Who administers the law? The judges apply. The judiciary administers that law. Can the judiciary administer it according to its wishes? The answer is no. It must do it according to the intention of the parliament. And that defines the relationship. That ultimately defines parliament's position in terms of law. In terms of application of the law. Okay. Now, you see, when we are talking about legislative supremacy, when we are talking about the unlimited powers, then we have to ask us a different question. Question is the unlimited powers of the parliament, are they really unlimited, or is there any higher power within the country that can limit these powers? Okay, and this is where the question, your exam questions examiners will try to examine you. Okay, what is it? When I'm talking about the unlimited powers of the parliament for lawmaking, okay, the question is it really unlimited, or there are some higher powers within the constitution? Whether there is any higher authority within the constitution that can limit the powers of the legislatures. Okay, that's something the examiners will examine you. Okay, let me talk about one simple thing before we move into human rights, EU law, all those territories. Let me explain you one very simple thing. Think about it. The parliament represents whom? The electorate, the people, right? And after how many days, months, or years they are elected? 5 years now. It used to be maximum 5 years. Now under the fixed term parliaments are every 5 years. So what is the cycle? Cycle is like after every 5 years, what do? Who goes back to whom? After every 5 years, who goes back to whom? The politicians go back to the electorate and makes all sorts of promises in front of us, right? Holds something in front of us, and we get convinced, and we vote for them and start dreaming about nice golden days are coming. Yes, isn't it? So there are promises made by them, and we believe in them, and we vote them, right? What do we give them? We give them the mandate. We give them the political mandate to govern us. Do they rule us or do they govern us? They govern us. Who rules us? Law. Law rules us. That is rule of law. Don't say that big. Okay? It's basically we are governed by a government and we are ruled by the nothing but law. Okay. So what we do, the parliament gives the mandate of the people so that they can form the government and the government can govern us. That is the chain, isn't it? So who is the source of the power of the parliament? It is the electorate. Electorate is the ultimate source of power for the parliament. So when we are saying that parliament has got unlimited powers to make law, then you have to ask yourself, who is the source of that unlimited power? It is us, it is the electorate. That means who holds that unlimited power? Not the parliament, it's the electorate. Okay, then ask yourself the question again. Is the parliament really holding unlimited power, or there is somebody else who is holding the unlimited power? Somebody else. It is the parliament, it is the electorate who is holding the unlimited power. What actually has happened? As parliament is representing us, we are saying that, well, go ahead, you make law whichever way you want to. But when I'm saying, when the electorate is saying that you can make law whichever way you want to, even though they said whichever you want to, but practically think, is it without boundary or there is a boundary? There is a boundary. There is an invisible boundary, isn't it? Now, let's ask you a plain question. Electorate gave the parliament the authority to make law, saying that do whatever you want to. Will the parliament make a law, hypothetically, will the parliament make a law imposing 80% income tax on the people? Can the parliament do it?
Yes.
Yes, they can. So that brings us my favorite point. What you can do and what you should do. What you should do. The parliament can make the law. That represents, when I'm saying the parliament can make the law, that represents what? Limited power or unlimited power? Unlimited power. But the parliament always asks itself, even though I can, but should I really do that? And when you transfer yourself from can to should, are you still holding that unlimited power, or there is now a boundary? Now there is a boundary around you. There is now a boundary. You don't see it, but invisibly there is a boundary there. And that boundary is what we call the ultimate supremacy of the electorate. Are we clear? Okay. So what I'm trying to say that yes, the parliament in theory is the supreme body, but the supremacy is ultimately with whom? Is not with the parliament. The supremacy ultimately lies with the electorate. Which tells us another story. There are two types of supremacy. One is legal supremacy. You can write it down, you can take note of it. There is legal supremacy and there is political supremacy. You tell me who has got which one? Yes, and the electorate has the political supremacy. Yes, good. Are we clear? That reminded me one question, another question. Sir Ivor Jennings very famously said that the parliament can make laws to ban smoking on the streets of Paris. Parliament can make laws to kill all the blue-eyed babies. Right? Does that, when the parliament makes a law like that, say kill all the blue-eyed babies, if the parliament makes that law, are we talking about can or are we talking about should? We are talking about can. But then it is exercising its which supremacy? It is exercising its legal supremacy. But will the parliament do that? The answer is no, parliament will not do that. Why? Because we are then talking about should, not can. And that should is imposed by whom? That should is imposed by the political supremacy of whom? Of the electorate. Are we clear? When is the political supremacy is is in its strongest form? Think about it. Parliament, last parliament, the current parliament in UK was elected in which year? In 2010. And when are we going for a new election? Do you know the date? May 7th. May 7th, we are going to have the next election. And how is the political supremacy now? The political supremacy of the electorate, is it at its weaker point, or is it at its strongest point? It is at its strongest point now. Think about it. Right after 2010 elections was that means beginning of the parliament. The political supremacy of the electorate is more weaker, isn't it? Because parliament just got the mandate. But end of the 5-year terms, the last year, do you know what is it called? The last year of the parliament? The last year of the parliament is called the election year. Because that is the year of the election. Okay. It's called the election year. And that is when all the political parties, they gear up, they redefine, yes, they try to redefine themselves, they try to organize themselves, bring the agenda, all those things to impress us, the full electorate, who always believes in them. Okay, so they try to bring it before us, and they will come to us and tell us all the promises. Look, we are going to fly you to the moon. We are going to give you all sorts of things. Now, that is the time when we say that, yes, this is the strongest period of electoral supremacy, because whatever you have done, whatever you have promised us in 2010, now is the time for us to examine whether you met your promise, number one, and then we will give our verdict. On which date? On 7th of May. That is the date of ultimate verdict, and that is where we are exercising our ultimate supremacy. That is the political supremacy of the electorate. Are we clear? The relationship between the legal supremacy and political supremacy? Okay, think about it. A government may stay in power, may come to the power through the elections, but sometimes we see that some governments, they have resigned from the office and went for elections even before the 5 years. Why do they do that? They still could remain in power for entire time. Okay, say out of 600 seats, my party has got 350 seats out of 600. Quite a strong majority in parliament. And I have become the prime minister. Over the next 5 years, I will continue to have these 350 seats. My party will have these 350 seats. But something happened. A big mistake was done by my party, for which, after 3 years, I realized that I have lost the support of the people. I have lost the moral authority over the country to govern it. Should I stay in power? I can. Legally, I can. Good point. Good thing. Legally, I can, because I still have those 350 seats in parliament. So legally, I can. But because I have made a big mistake, because something has terribly gone wrong, do I have the moral authority to remain in power? Remember, when we studied ministerial responsibility, okay, ministers can still stay in office. There is no problem with that, but they no longer has the credibility to remain in office. Things like that. So one thing defines the legal supremacy. Legally, you can do that. Other thing talks about the supremacy, political supremacy, moral supremacy. Are we clear?
Yes, sir.
So, legislative supremacy of parliament is, I would say, I describe it as more of something which is available in theory, not in practice. Okay, and we'll see numerous examples of it. We have to understand that this doctrine, which started off very simply talking about how parliament can make laws and all these things, it has got now many dimensions. Okay, we will examine the theory by David Dicey. Okay, we will look at, once we examine the theory given by David Dicey, we will, what we will do, we will examine the challenges of the traditional doctrine. Okay, the challenges are coming from different dimensions, different directions. One challenge is, of course, European Union law. Okay, and that is where examiners will try to examine you. Okay, we'll see how European Union law has affected the traditional doctrine of parliamentary supremacy. We will see how Human Rights Act 1998 has affected the traditional doctrine of parliamentary supremacy. We will also examine, there is an act called Parliamentary Standards Act. We will see that how Parliamentary Standards Act has an impact on us. Okay, so this chapter is not, I would say this chapter does not stand alone for your exam preparation. This must be done with other chapters like EU law. You see, this is what I always warned you, that you just can't do one chapter out of all these and think that you are prepared for the exam. Okay, so what we will examine is, we will look at the traditional doctrine. We have to look at EU law. You are covering EU law, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we'll have to look at EU law. We will have to look at, which I have covered with you, the basic stuff. Okay. We'll also have to look at the PSA 2009, Parliamentary Standards Act 2009. Okay. To understand Parliamentary Standards Act 2009, we have to look at something called Parliamentary Standards and Privilege. Although it is not part of your syllabus now, it used to be part of London syllabus. It's no longer part of London syllabus. But I would spend 15-20 minutes time talking about parliamentary privilege and standards and privilege. I think that is important for you to understand. Okay. Once we are done with this, we will also have to understand. We will also have to examine the chapter devolution. How devolution impacts on parliamentary supremacy. Okay, especially after the referendum in Scotland. Okay, and a new case in the Supreme Court. Okay, it is very important that we look at parliamentary supremacy in light of devolution. I think you will have a question from devolution anyway, so we'll have to look at devolution as well. Okay. And most importantly, we need to look at this new this is very nicely presented as the new constitutional animal called the, yes. Then I'll give you this article of the is Supreme Court becoming the new constitutional animal. Okay. Now, so we have to look at the relationship, how things has changed or how things may change after the Supreme Court became the highest court in UK. Well, and how that may change the relationship between the judiciary and the legislature. That can be a big question mark. All right, and we have to also look at the talks that's going on about having a written constitution. Okay, will adoption of a written constitution keep legislative supremacy of parliament as it is, or whether that will change? So that's a big question mark. All right, now think about it. Remember when we are doing written and unwritten constitution, what if you get a question like that, that what are the things that will change, or what will be the impact of adopting a written constitution? Most of the people, most of the students will talk about the advantages and disadvantages only, not talking about the that how this is going to have an impact on the parliamentary supremacy. That's very important to mention. You see, most of the people will not talk about having, adopting a written constitution would mean the change of relationship between the parliament and the legislatures. Sorry, parliament and the judiciary. Sorry, and the judiciary. Most of the people will not talk about that. But I want my students to mention these things if you get a question like that. Are we clear? Remember Magna Carta?
Yes, yes.
When was it made?
1215.
1215, Magna Carta. We are standing in a very significant year. Why?
2015.
This 2015, 800 years of Magna Carta. I wonder whether there will be a question around it. I wonder whether there will be a question on that. It just struck me this morning. I was reading something, and it did strike me some. I was reading some, looking at some London materials, and it did strike me like that, because this is very significant. No, it's not an intuition. I was just wondering that what if they do?
So what sort of question?
My thoughts are still at its preliminary stage. I'll go back. Okay, but to bring Magna Carta and talk about the constitutional significance of it and how it's used and all these things, I need to give you ideas about all these things first. Okay, I need to cover jury with you in CLRI because jury originates from Magna Carta. Okay, so this is something, you see, if you look at the board now, do you think that the parliamentary supremacy stands alone? Can anybody think that I'm well prepared for this chapter after just reading the chapters? If they haven't done all these things, the answer is a big no. You will not be able to perform well if you do not do all of them. And that's why the beginning of the year, I warned all of you about public law, that if you think that I can pick and choose some chapters and I'll prepare myself for the exam, you are absolutely wrong. You will not do well. Well, you have to cover a significant part of it, because the questions do not come alone from one. You see, no. How do you think? Out of 20 chapters, if you do 8, no, 13 topics. But human rights has got 3 chapters, isn't it? EU law has got 2 topics. I would go for more. Yeah, but let's not talk about it now. We will talk about it when we are done with the syllabus. Okay. Once we are done with the syllabus, what I'll do, I'll give you an entire overview of the entire syllabus, and we can talk about it. But again, let me tell you this thing: the questions, if you look at the pattern of questions of the University of London, do not prepare yourself on specific chapter. Just fine. I have done this. should be fine. If you haven't done all of it, think about it. This thing covers so many things. It itself 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. All right. Now, if you look at, okay, how many of you have the subject guide with you? Yeah, can you get the subject guide, please? Have you got the subject guide? I just want to draw your attention to the syllabus. Go to the table of contents. Okay, look at chapter 8 and 9. What are these about?
Future primary legislation and delegate.
I'll spend a couple of days, a couple of lectures. One lecture on primary legislation, one on primary legislation, one on delegated legislation. Okay, these are important for your understanding of the parliamentary supremacy. Okay, so we'll look at these. I'm not going to spend awful lot of time on these two chapters. Okay, but I have a feeling we would probably get a question from either of the two. Okay, very simple things, very specific, not too difficult to understand. Okay, these are chapters I call my insurances. In case we have a very difficult question and you get question from there, you probably would be able to answer. At least if you don't get 16, at least you can get a 10. All right. Sometimes you do not count the loss. You think about how to do the damage control. So I always say these are two chapters. I spent 2 lectures on them, and they are your insurances. But I would say I'll do these 2 because these are going to help you to understand this topic as well. Okay, and when I'm going to look at these, you will see how the issue of parliamentary supremacy is coming along with this. All right, and then we have the chapter. Look at chapter 13. It's on devolution. Look at this 30, what it's showing. 13.3, 13.4, 13.5. You see, these are related issues with parliamentary supremacy, and if we are talking about just the chapter of devolution, just highlight 13.10. The English question. That's something I have a feeling that they may examine you on this. If there is a question on devolution, this is something is becoming quite big issue. The English question. Okay, very simple. Now, do you know what is English question? The English question is quickly. No. Within the United Kingdom, England is the largest, and they have got the most of the population and most of the seats. Now, the UK Parliament makes its laws. Sometimes for the whole of United Kingdom, sometimes just for a region. Now, if UK Parliament makes a law which is just applicable for England, the question is, should the Scottish MPs have a say in that legislation? or should the MPs from Wales, should have any say in that legislation? That's the thing. One way is that if it affects only England, why should a member of the parliament from Scotland should have a say in it? Because it is not affecting them.
Scottish MPs are member of the UK Parliament.
That is the other side's story. Other side would say that if you do it like that, then you are being divisible. You are dividing the parliament. That is another story. Now, one of the arguments is that if a legislation does not affect my people, then I would probably vote in the parliament according to the party line. But if it affects my people, then I may not support my party line. I may go against it, isn't it? So which means, where are you more independent? Are you independent when you are acting according to your party guideline, or when you are talking about your own people? Exactly. So those are issues, and that may affect parliamentary supremacy, this way, that way. So the entire all these issues must be looked at, and when we do devolution, we'll have question, we'll discuss the English question. I think I have posted something, although you did not notice. I posted something in my timeline, a big article on English question from BBC. Okay, and this is why I suggested you to visit UK politics. There's a page called UK politics in BBC. There are a lot of issues are there, which would help you to understand public law issues. Okay, and if you can bring a recent example in your answers, that would simply improve your standard of your answer, because that would show that you just did not understand the theory, you have also understood the practical aspect of it as well. Okay, so that's why I always suggested look at that. Are we clear what we are going to look at in our next class? Okay, so in our next class we will start with diocese theory, criticisms of diocese theory. Once I'm done with diocese theory, criticisms of diocese theory, I will look at primary legislation, delegate legislation, and other issues related to it. Clear? All right, guys. Thank you. Thank you for your patience.
So, how important is legal aid for civil rights?